morning, YouTube. Tired Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So in this video, well, this will be morning time by the time you see this video. I'm shooting it a little early, but we are doing the March Outlook video. We just got this coming in a couple of days ago, so this information is relatively fresh, and it's a pretty complicated deal. This will be a little bit longer of an Outlook video. I do have a video that was put up last night in regards to what to expect for the end of the month, so make sure you click on that. That'll be that link or card will be shown towards the beginning of the video. So we'll quickly touch up on that one quick time, mainly looking at the temperature and precip outlooks. So if we look at the 6 to 10 day outlook, no surprises here. The temperature outlook has the eastern half of the country warm, the western half very cold. It's a classic negative PNA setup where it's cold to the west, warm to the east. A little bit of colder air stationed far up in the northern reaches of the U.S. towards Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, those areas. Highest confidence of cold right now would be over towards the west, where we're also expecting a lot of precipitation. So a lot of this will be of the frozen variety, and this stretches into a good portion of the southwest here, even into the central plains here, northern plains especially. But we have very strong warm air, very strong chance of warm air becoming prevalent across the southeast, even stretching into the mid-Atlantic and even a good portion of the northeast. The only areas that we're expecting near normal are this small pocket here, which would include the far reaches of New York City, maybe Buffalo, and then a small portion across from Michigan all the way down into southwestern Texas, where we could expect near normal temperatures. Even Alaska is looking below normal as far as the temperatures are concerned for the most part. On the precip outlook, we're getting pretty active in the eastern half of the country and the western half. Slightly below average marks for spots around the north central plains. But even then, there's still going to be a good bit of activity over there. But I guess the timing of when this forecast went up is going to be a big part behind that. As far as the southern coast of Texas, it's probably going to be slightly below average. It's going to be pretty close. We're at the bare minimum of leaning below average on the precip. And that same can be said for Florida. So it's going to really be active all across the board on days 6 through 10. And this is how we will end up looking at the rest of the month. So that being said, let's go ahead and actually take a look at what our 1 month outlook actually will look like here. So this is what we're dealing with as far as the outlook of March is concerned. One thing I want to note here is that there has been a lot of talk about the polar vortex being disrupted, being active, and we are actually going to go over that in this video in just a bit. So what you see here could actually turn over on its head drastically too. Not to mention the time frame in which there could be potentially extreme cold and where it will be is still in question right now. Because one thing to note is because of that polar vortex, we could have a handful of days that could be extremely cold, or we could have a handful of days that will be extremely active and bring in a lot of precipitation. So this is somewhat hearsay, really, looking at this right now. I'm not going to lie, because truthfully, even though you may be well above average, there could be a few days where you could be well below average, and the final outcome here may be a little different than what you see here. So just thought I'd get that out the way now. That's my disclaimer right here. So we just looked at the temperature, and this is the precip. Pretty similar deal as to how we're ending out February. But the greatest confidence for above average precip is going to be across the northern reaches of the U.S. and into the Missouri and maybe Ohio valleys, sneaking into the Tennessee Valley a bit too. Otherwise, the areas in the white are in equal chances, and we have a couple of slightly darker colored areas in regards to below average precip. This is across southern Georgia, Florida, and then southern Texas. Southern Texas sometimes can be really funny when it comes to storm systems, but I think to start out the month, we may very well be pretty active across this region here. Florida is a little bit of a question mark at this point. Alaska, as far as we're concerned here, I think that a large portion of this will be slightly above average, personally speaking, based off what I've been seeing off the weather pattern here, but we'll see what happens with that. This little, I forget exactly what this bay is called right here, if there is one right here. I'm pretty sure there is, but I'm kind of drawing blank right now. But I do believe that this area could see a little less precipitation than average, but not much. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, like I said, the polar vortex does a lot more than deal with revolving around temperature. It influences storm tracks and much more. So this is going to be very interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks as we have this disruption here. So I'm going to briefly touch on things right now with the polar vortex. So we still have the ensemble running in progress as we speak. So I can't look super far out into the future, but we can already see a little bit of a change going on here. So basically, when we look for the polar vortex, we're looking up through this part of the world right here towards the poles. When the polar vortex is really stable, we tend to see more of a circular ring, and maybe on the far outer reaches of it, we have ridges and troughs that develop and so on and so forth. Then we have our cold and warm air trends and so on and so forth. Watch what ends up happening, even though I don't really go too far on this. Watch what I do here. So watch how this becomes a lot more distorted, a lot more wavy. Look at this. So you can see how things are spinning in its counterclockwise flow. We're going to go back again. And you can see how that cold air is starting to dip a little bit further south each time. And you're seeing more and more storm systems starting to form here. This is a pattern from the North American Oscillation, or NAO, that's very influencing towards much deeper cold blast and also more active weather patterns. And while I can only go 144 hours out on this because the model's literally updating right before our eyes, this is indicative of the pattern that we could be seeing as we get into March. This is looking all the way out to February 24th. So this is going to be something that we'll have to watch really close over the next couple of weeks, as this is actually expected to intensify as this disruption, so to speak, is expected to deepen, expected to intensify in nature. And this is partially due to this little warm sector over here that's off of the Alaskan coast here. I've seen this pattern before. I don't really go into this too much because I'm not super familiar with it. It wasn't until about maybe over the last few months where I've starting to brush up on this. Ooh, we just had two more updates come in. So we'll go up to about 156. But you can see how that ridge right here that's developed here is going to be helping funnel more cold air in towards the northwest U.S. And whatever ends up being over the western half of the country, traditionally by way of the cyclonic vorticity, will end up moving to the east. So we're going to have to be watching all across this part of the world for a while. This is going to affect the entire planet's weather, really, but I can't get access to every model in every country. So all I can do is focus on this as best I can. But that being said, we know, like I said, we know that the deal is going to be possibly. So over the coming weeks, make sure you are ready. Do not put your winter stuff away just yet. So this is what we are looking at so far for the March temperature anomaly. This is how the departure between our average temperatures. Anywhere in the blue is below average temperatures, and the darker the blue color or brighter the purple color, so to speak, the colder it is. The orange is above average, and the deeper the yellow, orange, and red colors are, the more above average we are looking. Keep in mind this is also measured in Celsius. I will have a formula to convert it to Celsius if you're really wanting to know how badly how badly our departure is going to be. That being said, we can see, like I said before, a little colder to the west, warmer out to the east. Most of the eastern half of the country is about maybe less than a degree Celsius towards the northeast. It's not really until we get into the southeast where we get those much warmer than average temperatures, where we're looking at maybe 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. Towards the panhandle of Florida, we're dealing with maybe about 4 to 5 degrees Celsius. Doesn't sound like much, but remember, if you convert Celsius over to Fahrenheit, that's about maybe 10, 15 degrees above average, maybe even higher in some places. And then when we look back towards the west, a lot of it's about maybe a degree or two below average in Celsius. The coldest area seems to be more so towards the Sierra Nevada right now. But notice how we have that little area of frigid air that's just north of the border trying to work its way into Montana. We'll have to watch and see if this ends up shifting south as time goes on. I do think there might be some updates with this forecast here as we get into the start of March. So we'll have to, of course, keep an eye on this. But if this moves south, we could be very well seeing about maybe 5 to 7 degrees below average, and that's in Celsius. So again, maybe about 15 to 20 degrees below average in some spots, just on the edge of the U.S.-Canadian border here. So a lot to keep track of here. So again, especially across, I would say, this part of the world, this part of the U.S., do not put your winter stuff away. Also keep in mind this is over a 30-day average. So if we end up seeing this move down south, even over this 30-day average, best believe it's going to be colder even further south. So really, that line may need to be moved on my end. So like I said, a lot to keep track of here, but do not put your winter stuff away. You may come to realize that that was a brutal mistake. Here's hoping that maybe we get spared here, though. But anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Of course, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Go on, do the double click if you haven't already, where you like and subscribe. I do updates like this every month. I do severe weather updates, winter weather updates. It's a lot to keep track of, but I'm crazy enough to enjoy doing it. But anyway, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll have a video up later Sunday afternoon. Until then, this has been Metalhead Weatherman. Take care, you guys, and I will see you soon.